You're watching The Citizen Report, real, in-depth American.
Welcome to The Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon. Thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American, and it's always good to be back here with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, before I get going, let me just say as a quick side note here, as many of y'all are aware, I normally upload as a recorded broadcast, as a recorded show that I tape locally offline before uploading to Rumble. So what has happened in the last week and a half is that I have been, for some reason, technically having difficulties properly recording locally. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. So what I've been doing is like what I'm doing right now. I'm producing this live, and then it's going out live on YouTube, and then later, once the episode becomes available to download, I will then download it off of YouTube and then upload it to Rumble. So I wanted to explain that here just right at the outset as to why you're seeing me more regularly post here on YouTube of late. Now, and I'll also say there's some advantages as well to using YouTube, but I'll save those other pointers for another time maybe. But I wanted to come on and do an update tonight about the situation in the Middle East. As many of y'all are aware, the United States is weighing its options concerning what it might end up doing concerning the situation with Israel and Iran. So what happened in the last couple of weeks, we see that Israel started to, under the pretext, if you'd like, under the pretext of a preemptive strike, hitting Iran, and then Iran responding to that. Now, of course, this isn't just starting with that. This has been going on for, well, biblically speaking, thousands of years. But in terms of this immediate situation, it's actually been going on for a couple of years since arguably the October 7 event, where you had the Hezbollah, and I may not be using the words quite right, but basically you had the terrorist groups in Gaza coming over onto Israeli soil and doing everything that is, everyone knows about on October 7, kidnapping and all of that stuff. So, but I wanted to provide an update as best as I can anyway to the situation. But before I get to really the update side of it, I want to first speak on something that I felt strongly led to talk about. And what I mean by that is, on my last broadcast, I was quite tired that day. Just got through my grandmother's funeral, and things were just beginning to calm down from that. But I meant to discuss something in my last report that I didn't get to. That I just kind of neglected to talk about it, basically. So, but what I want to do right now is kind of go over to that side of things, and I'm not going to go on with it for too long, but I want to make something very important, something very clear here, is that it is vitally important, and not just with this event that we're currently facing, right? But as a whole, any news event. But this is a perfect example of it. And what I mean by what I'm trying to say is, you've got to stop. I got to stop it too. We all have got to stop looking at it out of the flesh and what the world is projecting onto it. And what I mean by that is, there are narratives that are being exchanged in the mainstream media side of things, and on both sides, you have the side of those that seem to be defending Israel, and those defending Iran. And basically the situation with that is both of those are faulty arguments, because they're looking at it only out of the flesh, as it were. I'm going to be very careful how I phrase this. God's ways are not our ways. and his ways are high and far above ours, and his thoughts are far above ours, I meant to say. And when it comes to something like this, one might be tempted to think, as am I, that America should not be involved in Iran. And I tend to agree with that. In fact, the last 20 years have been, it's just a perfect example. There was we now know this, a completely false pretext of weapons of mass destruction, which led to the U.S. becoming involved in what I would call another banker's war in Iraq. And basically what I'm trying to get at is there's sort of this fatigue among the American people for becoming involved in things that are not on our own soil. And, when it comes to war itself, there is a requirement in order to become involved in war, and many people have tried to talk about it, trying to work their way around it. And again, please hear me out in full before you come to a conclusion of before you assume where I stand on this. Listen to my entire argument. And I'm trying, again, to be cautious here of how to phrase this. But the situation is that, strictly speaking, per the Constitution, the president has an obligation to get an authorization from Congress. And we're not just supposed to go around globally and start stirring things up and doing this and doing that. That's not some would argue against this, but what we're supposed to be first and foremost, peace through strength, as they say. And by that, basically focusing on our own matters, right? If an ally is in distress, there are ways to handle that. And everything leading up to what we're seeing right now in Iran is twofold, in my view. One, it's not just a neglect. It's a neglect for sure by past leadership in subsequent or in past American administrations. But it is intentional as well, intentional destabilizing. And so where we're at right now is complete chaos, if you'd like. We've had Obama basically embolden Hezbollah and embolden the Iranians to get to the point that where they're at right now. We've had a complete weak leadership in Biden, or his auto pen, I guess. And, basically we've had a complete breakdown of how things are supposed to work in terms of American governance, where we're at right now. And so, like I said earlier, God's ways are not our ways. And so I personally, my conscience is saying, I don't want anything to do with this. But God is using circumstances where we're in all this chaos right now, because in what we think is a buildup to a war with Iran. Now, there could well be military operations involving the United States in the coming hours and days. We'll see what happens. But what is happening in Iran is an explosion, pardon the pun, an explosion and a rapid growth of the underground church in Iran, according to people that know about this matter. Now, I am not an expert at this, but I have heard in recent, not just days, but going back for quite a while, the underground, and I stress the word underground, church has highly oppressed. I mean, highly oppressed in Iran. But yet, the church is still going forth, and the gospel is still going forth in Iran. And so, God's ways are not our ways. What is happening right now is God is bringing judgment on the Iranian regime that's been in place since 79. That was before my time, but I believe 1979 based on what I've been reading. And basically, God is bringing judgment on them because the blood of the innocent is crying out in the land of Iran, in the land of Persia. And so we can look at this from a, and be provoked, if you'd like, by news cycles saying, well, we should or should not be involved, whereas God is seeing this quite differently to begin with. God is seeing this as he has given time for the leadership in Iran to repent, and it seems like their time is just about up. And I'm going to transition now to something that kind of plays into what I've just said, because this is very significant in my view. Now, this is not corroborated. This is just simply someone on X claiming this, but I'm going to go ahead and share this anyway. And this is a video. Apparently what is going on in Iran, and I don't know how recent this footage is, and I stress this is not corroborated, but it appears to be basically certain channels in Iran are being hijacked, and people in Iran are being called to basically rise up against the regime. And so the situation is, that's some footage there. I believe that may even be the state TV station that was set ablaze by that missile. And so that, again, is footage allegedly of one of the, it looks like IRIB TV1, whatever that means. I'm guessing that's a state TV channel in Iran. And so that is very significant in the sense that it seems like the people have had enough in Iran, and they need a little nudge, perhaps, to finally take back control of their country. And many people in Iran do not want this regime, and they also don't want war either. Just so we're clear about that. And of course, you have the fanaticals in Iran, shouting Allahu Akbar, and I don't know. There are definitely those that want war and want destruction, all of those sorts of things. But that's not every Iranian. And we need to stop looking at this from the point of view of for or against one or the other. You need to start seeing this as how God sees it. Because for far too long, we have allowed our emotions to be affected by whatever the tell-a-vision, whatever that's telling us and programming us. And we need to stop looking at it through that alone. Take note of it for sure, but think for yourself and think critically. That's very critical, very important to do, is to have critical thinking and to use discernment. And wherever you lack discernment, lack wisdom, ask God for it. And what I want to do next, because I do have a number of things I want to share with you, is I also want to talk about some footage that's been circulating on the web as it relates to, I guess, the incoming missile strikes in Iran. And there's been people quite recklessly, I'll say, claiming that a nuke had been detonated in Iran. Now, I don't pretend to know everything there is to know about any matter, including this subject, but what I am going to say is I have a reasonable amount of confidence to say this is not a nuke, yet there is footage going out there causing panic on social media, and let's just go to that footage first. Let me see if I can take it full. There we go. This is allegedly in recent days. This is what someone claims online. It goes by the name The Persian Jewess. It says, breaking a mushroom-shaped explosion has been reported in eastern Tehran near nuclear and missile facilities in Parchin and Khojar. Let me take this full. Let me make sure it is on screen on your end. It is. Good. And I'm going to play this so you can see what this footage is revealing here. And obviously there's Arabic script on here, so I don't know what that's saying. And you can see there, I will say it does have the sort of the conventional shape of a mushroom cloud, or at least it kind of does. And I'm going to explain in a minute why this is not, in my opinion, a nuke. But there you go. There's that. I'm going to just kind of keep it going forward a little bit. Okay, now this is I think this next part is one of the things that's a little more illuminated, if you'd like. So there's a little more light to this. Now, let me just go forward with this until I get to the part I really want to share. Now, this is the part that would be arguably the most compelling. And again, even this, I don't believe is a nuke. And I'm about to explain why I'm so confident in saying that. But this is where you kind of see the glow in the nighttime sky off in the distance. Let me turn the sound up if I can. So this allegedly, again, is in Iran, somewhere in the country of Iran. I'm just going to keep this playing for a few more seconds. And I'm doing that also intentionally because of another thing I'm about to make. Okay, so let me come back up on screen right now, at least in some form, and let me explain something very critical here. I'm just going to go full with this. I want to be very clear in what I'm about to say here. Now, last year there's a journalist by the name of Annie Jacobsen. I highly recommend her work, by the way. She does an incredible job with research. She wrote a book about nuclear war. It's called Nuclear War: A Scenario. And I was so captivated by it, I actually bought the audiobook and a hard copy and a Kindle version as well, so I could read it on the desktop. And I want to say and make this point very, very clear here, that after reading that book and all the other things that I have read over the years, because I have been fascinated enough by the idea of it, this is not a nuke. And the reason I say that is I'm going to read a small excerpt from her book. This book takes largely the form of a scenario that basically involves expert research, historical research, and building it all into a synthesis of what would realistically happen if we came into nuclear conflict. And let me just say, it's kind of like, I believe the movie War Games. I'm probably going to get the quote wrong, but something along the lines of the only way to win is to not play. And that's exactly what that book is basically making the point of. And I'm just going to leave it at that. However, I am going to read this now because it is copyrighted. I'm only going to read the excerpt. I'm not going to put the text up on screen because this is, right out of the book. So not to give a spoiler, this is a spoiler alert, but in this scenario, like I said, since it is a spoiler alert, if you'd rather read it for yourself, skip this part or mute it if you're live with me. And this is the second of 2 nuclear bombs that are initially launched on the United States. And this one is launched from a submarine off the coast of the west coast of the United States at a nuclear plant on the coast of California. And I'm going to read this because I'm not trying to scare anybody. And actually, the whole point is to do just the opposite, because I want to explain the nuances to this. And then ask yourself, does this match up with the footage you just saw? And then I'm just going to read this, okay? So it says, in Central California on the coast, 4 miles northwest of the Diablo Canyon power plant, high on a hilltop near Point Buchan, a cattle rancher is tending to his animals when he is blown off his feet by the blast from a 300-kiloton nuclear bomb. Here's the part. There was no sound at first, no warning. Just a wall of dense air that hit him like a bulldozer, the wind ripping the clothes off his body. As fate and circumstance had it, the cattle rancher was facing away from the bomb when it exploded, sparing him blindness. He is alive owing in part to geography, to the forms and features of the land features around him. And basically he goes on to say, because there's these hills and stuff, it kind of blunts some of the force of the energy blast, if you like. Now, the reason I read this is because this footage that's circulating on the web where people are trying to say a nuke has been detonated, does not even come close to computing with how a nuke actually works. Basically, what you see first, well, in an instant you'll see it because you're going to be blind in the next instant after it, at least temporary blindness. Is there's going to be this brilliant flash, and from what I have read from people that have seen nuclear bombs with the proper equipment, even with your eyes closed, you can still basically see. That's how bright it is. And the other thing is there's this energy wave that comes out. And this footage, I don't see even a little bit of energy. The person watching it has still got eyesight, as far as I know. There's no discernible energy wave that I can tell from that footage. And, you know, and you just don't see the energy wave going out and causing windows to shatter miles and miles away. And even there was a bomb that went off, by the way, in, I believe, Lebanon several years back. And there was this footage going out there where this bomb, or I'm not sure if it was a bomb actually, or if it was just an explosion, but even that with its brilliant, just intensity of it, the explosion of it, it was not a nuke because it lacked the brilliant light that is basically the trademark, if you'd like, of what a nuke actually produces. Now, by the way, concerning that book, don't read it if you're faint of heart. I stress that. Only read it if you have the guts for it. Even I, who I would consider to be pretty capable of reading that kind of material, I was having night sweats one night during the period of time I was actually first really reading it. Or listening to it at that point. It was an audiobook in that form. Yeah. Don't read that unless you actually can handle it. And I'm just bringing this excerpt up, reading it to you, so you can understand how a nuke actually functions in an experiential way, and how the people actually, first of all, if the people in Tehran, in Iran, I should say, if that was actually a nuke, there would be no question it was a nuke. Because it's just so far, far beyond what other bombs can do. So, so with that, I want to go next to something I want to talk about with concerning Iran as a whole in general. Because this is not something that's being discussed a lot in the mainstream Mockingbird media. And that is concerning people on social media. And someone kind of put together sort of this, it's going to be hard to read, but it's kind of on purpose. It's just simply to make a point, really. This is right here. It's hard to read. It's not really meant, I'm not really trying to read all this anyway, but just to give you a sense of the breadth and the depth of how many people in, leadership, such as in the U.S. House, U.S. Senate, etc., that they're calling for war with Iran. They want war with Iran, all those things. I mean, there's this one, I will read this one because it's just stupid. Whoever this person is, Randy Fine, says bombs away. That would be insanity right there. It's like calling for war. I'm pretty sure the people in Iraq that had to go fight there would strongly disagree with that because it's not our war. But again, as I said earlier, this is not all what it seems, because God has a broader purpose in everything. And so it's not about really the U.S. getting involved or not getting involved, although there is certainly the matter of what God's will is on that. And for that, we should be praying, and I'm not doing a good job of it myself, but we should all be praying for Trump, certainly if you're led to pray, that he hears from God, that he hears from the Holy Spirit about what to do in this, because he's getting a lot of input. And I'm sure he's getting all the warmongers and stuff like that calling for war. But what does God say about this? And again, we have the underground church in Iran, and I don't want the destruction of Iran. I only want to see the regime fall if that be God's will. Now, the reason why I mentioned this whole collage of people posting online as well is because someone posted this picture, and the person that said this doesn't really matter, but what it was said essentially is, quote, "Funny how the politicians hiding Epstein's client list are the same ones pushing for war with Iran, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence, right?" So with that, let me go to this, because things get a little stranger. This from a news outlet called JNS. Never heard of it before today. But it says, Iranian outlet publishes first batch of documents allegedly stolen from Israel. The Iranian regime has described the leak as the greatest blow to Israeli intelligence ever. And I'm just going to simply say, let me go down here, because what is this really all about? It says here, the documents leaked by Theron seem to relate to correspondence involving Merev, probably mispronouncing this, Zafari Odez, Israel's ambassador to the IAEA. The first document is an Israeli request to meet with Grossi in his capacity at the time as chair of the Nuclear Suppliers Group, or NSG. The request references recent developments, a phase that Iranian media links to a missile test conducted by Tehran around that period. Now, I'm going to stop there, but you get the sense that there's something going on behind the scenes that, for whatever reason, I didn't hear a peep out of the media about, and I'm sure that's just a coincidence there. Or is it? Let me go to this now. Now, this is just simply, shall we say, speculation, and only that. Let me figure out a way to share this without doxing the person that posted this, because I don't think the person would necessarily mind having her name on there, but I still don't want to put it up even though it's a public post. I don't want to do that if I don't have to. So Donald Trump said this: "We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it. But it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA." Now, this person is drawing attention to the word stuff in quotations, and I'm going to come back up on screen again to be cautious of how I share this. But this person was pointing to a post 25, and I'm on YouTube, so I have to choose my words carefully here. But this is what it says from November 1, 2017. Follow up to last post. Well, actually, hang on a second. Let me come back on the screen. I may have been make sure I'm not sharing this backwards somehow. Actually, no, it's fine. Okay, let me go back up with that now. Post 25, November 1, 2017 says, follow up to last post. Return to comments R.E. Pelosi and John M. Some of us refuse to say his last name for a reason. This all has meaning. Everything stated. Big picture stuff. Few positions allow for this direct knowledge. Proof to begin 11.3. We sincerely appreciate the work you do. Keep up the good fight. The flow of information is vital. God bless. So the word stuff there is noteworthy. And then here's this person on social media shared a screenshot. And this one might be a little, at least to my eyes, a little hard to read, so I'm going to take it full this time. Post 1371, May 15, 2018 says, well, I guess this is, I'm not sure if this is sharing another post or just someone else entirely it's being shared from. I'll read that part first. It says, the stuff about the NYPD isn't just coming out. I'd heard about that during the campaign, but maybe the public wasn't ready for it yet. No one wanted to believe it then. And then the post says, find the, and then brackets in bold it says 2. After that, NYPD detectives, in brackets in bold, 187. And then after that, mid-2017. Did they view the insurance file? Threats are real. This is not a game. and then instead of using the letter, I'll use the word 17. Okay, I'll just go with that. So, so what can be discerned from this is the big question. Is this even relevant to anything I'm just talking about? So there is some uncorroborated speculation, and I'm going to stress speculation, that word. This is not confirmed. It may not even pan out this way, but I think it's something just to kind of keep in the back of your mind as to perhaps what if, just a what if, as a bargaining chip, some way, somehow, Iran obtains some or all of the Epstein files. And Trump, when you then compare that, couple that with the fact that Trump says we now have control. Let me make sure I'm using that word right. Yeah, we, I guess that means us, the United States, has complete control of Iranian airspace. That means that basically in modern times, if you control airspace, you basically control it. Basically, to some extent anyway. And, the what if here is, if that is true, is that why we're seeing all this chaos and people demanding war with Iran? Because if they do have this information, I could totally imagine why certain individuals would want to go to war, because it's a perfect distraction. There's multiple narratives in anything like that. But think about what could happen if that information goes public. Probably 2/3 of Congress would have to resign or step down, whatever. Because it would just, because if there's one thing that transcends political lines, except for, small number of people perhaps, if you hurt a child, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, or even a communist, most everyone is going to really be angry with that, we'll say. So, everything I just said could well be not true, but I wanted to bring that up and bring that to your attention. Now, I want to bring this up as well. Trump says this, we're not looking for long-term war. I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. Take a listen.
Some of the people in the base don't want a long-term war. They're afraid that we're going to get into a long-term war.
What you looking for a long-term war?
Yeah.
We're looking. I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Right.
That's it. I'm not looking long-term, short-term. And I've been saying that for 20 years. I've been saying it as a civilian who got a lot of publicity. People would cover it. Very simply, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. It's not a question of anything else. And if you did, you wouldn't have much of a country, because they would use it on us and they'd use it on other people, and there'd be a terror all over the world.
Some of the people in the base don't want a long.
Okay, sorry about that. It took me a second to get my mic back up. So, what I want to say there is also noteworthy, is that Trump, I will say, has been consistent. Going back to my last episode, I talked about this. In 2011, Trump said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Trump has been on record over the years speaking against endless wars. And he confirms it here. He doesn't want a long-term war. He just doesn't want nuclear weapons. Again, that could well be what's in play here, but there may be something completely different. Such as a scenario, just a hypothetical one I talked about, but what if there's something to that? So, it's just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind concerning what I was talking about a minute ago. Now, one other thing about Epstein that I think is quite provoking. I don't know where this text comes from. It was shared on X, and I want to go to this because this really kind of lends some color. Well, it adds color, and it could even add a little bit of I wouldn't even call it credibility because this is all hypothetical. I'm connecting dots that may not even correlate with each other, but I'm trying to look at this from a different angle and ask the question, is there something else here to be discerned? But here's what was shared on X, and I don't know who posted this. I don't know nothing about it, so I don't warrant that information. But again, wherever this was sourced from, it says, and I'm going to read 2 excerpts. It says, after its founding, Norinco, along with a handful of other Chinese state-owned firms, helped China to emerge as a leading arms supplier to the Third World, signing agreements between 1983 and 1990 worth more than $16 billion or $33.7 billion in 2022 dollars. During this period, much of China's business was with Iran. Beijing became Tehran's biggest weapons supplier during the 1981 to 1988 Iran-Iraq war, selling $4.8 billion or $10.1 billion in 2022 dollars in weapons and munitions to Iran in 1983 to 1990, according to then senior staff member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, William Triplett II, writing for the Washington Post in 1991. And then here's the thing that really caught my attention, and obviously the person that shared this on X. According to Stephen Hoffenberg, by 1983, Lease was working closely with Jeffrey Epstein, specifically on the sale of Chinese weapons to Iran. Jeffrey Epstein, Iran. So there is a connection. There is a connection. So, until I saw this, by the way, I thought I was bad something crazy for even thinking this. Or maybe. But then it's like, I see this and I'm like, whoa, there is a literal tangible connection here. Unless there's a same person by the same, or different person by the same name. We have a Jeffrey Epstein with a connection to Iran. So we have a deep state, like I've said before, in just about every country on the face of the planet. You have the real people of that country, and then you have the deep state of said country. 2 different things. So let me go now to this, and just kind of, this is going to be more on the side of updating the situation with Israel and Iran. This is from The Hill. Headline reads, U.S. Embassy working to evacuate Americans from Israel, Huckabee. And I'll just go straight to the X post from Mike Huckabee. And he writes this. I'll make it bigger if I can. He says this on X. Urgent notice. American citizens wanting to leave Israel, U.S. Embassy in Israel, is working on evacuation flights and cruise ship departures. You must enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP. You will be alerted with updates. Which, by the way, I'll just say for my audience, if you're going outside the country, you probably should pretty much always enroll in that anyway. That's not a bad idea. That way you can be kept informed with any sudden developments, because anytime you're outside the country, anything can happen. So just some life advice there. I didn't do it last time I left the country. I don't think I did. But anyways, and just seconds ago, I just got this on my phone. I will say, one second. So apparently Israel right now is striking multiple nuclear sites in Iran. That is just some information I just got here. So don't know much more than that. I obviously didn't dig into that before I came on today. But I want to move on to this because we have, before the current regime in Iran, there was something called the Shah of Iran, and it was basically like a monarchy then, and it started basically in some form in the 7th century BC, enduring until just, last century, 20th century AD. And the last person as Shah was by the name of Muhammad Reza Pahlavi, and his son's name is Reza Shah, Oh, I'm sorry, that's his father's name. My apologies. Hang on one second. His son's name, correcting myself, was Reza Pahlavi, and he was made Crown Prince of Iran, and he was officially named such in 1967. He is currently the head of the House of Pahlavi, so that's the family that would be basically at the head of Iran had it not been overthrown in 1979. Now, this is what he says, that individual, the son of the last Shah of Iran. This is what he says, and I think this is obviously something to note on with this situation currently ongoing. This is what Reza Pahlavi had to say, and I'm just going to play this. This was on X. Let me read what he says first. The Islamic Republic has come to its end and is collapsing. What has begun is irreversible. The future is bright, and together we will turn the page of history. Now is the time to stand up, time to reclaim Iran. May I be with you all. So let me play this for you, and then we'll come back and talk about it and wrap up.
همیهنانم جمهوری اسلامی به پایان خود
So actually what I'm going to have to do is just read it out for you in real time. So here we go.
همیهنانم
My fellow countrymen, Islamic Republic has reached its end, is in the process of collapsing. Khamenei, like a frightened rat, has gone into hiding and has lost control of the situation. What has begun is irreversible. The future is bright, and together we will pass through this sharp turn in history. In these difficult days, my heart is with all the defenseless citizens who have been harmed and have fallen victim to Khamenei's warmongering and delusions. For years, I have tried to prevent our homeland from being consumed by the fire of war. The end of the Islamic Republic is the end of its 46-year war against the Iranian nation. The regime's apparatus of repression is falling apart. All it takes now is a nationwide uprising to put an end to this nightmare once and for all. Now is the time to rise, the time to reclaim Iran. Let us all come forward from Bandar Abbas to Bandar something from... So I think I'll just stop it there, but you kind of get the point of what he's saying there. And if you couple that with what I was talking about a few minutes ago, with the hijacking of state TV, playing a message calling on its citizens to rise up, we're seeing a much different narrative or a much different situation unfolding than what the mainstream media is out there. They just want war. There's people that just want war because that's how they get their money. And frankly, if I can be a little blunt here, there are those who worship Moloch who love, this is YouTube, so maybe a little intense for this platform, but they love blood sacrifice. That's what the warmongers love. They lust for power, money, control, all of it. So, you know, the people, the underground church in Iran, that is what God is really after. And God, for a season, it may well be that what God is wanting to do in this situation ultimately is that there be a season where the gospel can really go forth more in Iran. Because as I said in the beginning, God's ways are not our ways. So, I think that's just about it, except for one thing. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Their headline reads, "Is the end near? Top Khamenei aide reportedly in talks with Russia for possible escape ramp. Several Iranian officials finalizing their own exit plans." So it sounds like that we could see a similar situation as what happened in Syria unfold. The question I have is, there will be a vacuum that's created in that. What fills it? Are we going to see what happened in Afghanistan take place, the Taliban seizing control of that ultimately, with our botched, ultimately in the wake of our complete disgraceful withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. Are we going to see that, or are we going to see perhaps a restoration of the Shah of Iran, because we have someone who was crowned as or made crown prince of Iran? It would be like kind of almost like the UK monarchy being sort of. It would be almost like the royal family for a season, for a time, sort of put into exile and then restored later. It would be something that would be, in my mind, a parallel. Could we see a restoration of the monarchy in Iran in the wake of all this? That's just something that's a hypothetical. I'm just looking at it from, trying to look at it from a point of view that's not just towing some talking point, because I'm just hearing, I'll tell you this. I have listened to people on media that have they sound nuts. I'm just going to say it like that. We have people I used to like, who I've had respect for much of their opinions. Mark Levin, for instance, basically talking down to people that don't want war in Iran. So, I'm not going to be one of those people that takes one side or the other. I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of what does God want in this? What is God trying to accomplish in this situation? And, is Trump being used as a vessel to accomplish ultimately what God wants, even if Trump may or may not fully realize it? That's the question I have, is what's really going on here beyond the talking points, beyond the just the noise of it all. So for the time being, we are waiting, we are watching to see what happens. And as of right now, beyond the breaking news that just came through moments ago that Israel is striking nuclear sites in Iran. I thought they already were, but I guess somehow that's a development in some way. I don't know exactly how or the scope of that, but that's just something to note there. But anyways, folks, I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up for this live broadcast of the Citizen Report. When able, I will upload this to Rumble due to technical limitations. I'm having to do it as a live show right now anyways, except when I did like my tribute to my grandmother, I was able to use, TMI here, but DaVinci Resolve, completely do it offline. But recording it through what I use, it's OBS that I use. I'm having difficulties doing that, so that's why I'm doing it as a live show. But perhaps it's a good thing I'm doing it as a live show. I kind of enjoy it actually, but doing it as a live show, that is. But thank you to everyone that tuned in. Please help me if you like the content that I'm producing. If you like what you see on the Citizen Report, you can help me out if you would like by sharing the link to this, thecitizenreport.net. That's the homepage. That's the domain to the homepage where you can get all those links for the Citizen Report. You can follow me personally on X. I'm at JFilmGuy. So the letter J, the word film, and the word guy. And also you can just search my first and last. Obviously, that's Jonathan Shannon. And I think that's it for me. Before I do sign off, I should probably I need to create a graphic actually where I could just simply punch it up and it's got all that concisely, nicely done there. Let me put this up, but this is my actual X page. So there you go, J Film Guy, Jonathan Shannon, and yeah, that's my account right there. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and by the grace of God, I'll see you back here again next time. Have a good evening, everyone, and I'll see you soon.